How do we use language to promote understanding and avoid escalating a conflict? It can be hard to achieve, even more so if we get triggered by what the other person said. Let's go through these steps together. First, choose your timing. Knowing when to say something is crucial if you want to prevent conflicts. Before you say anything that might be misjudged, check if you and your partner are receptive enough. Set the tone of the conversation by stating its duration and purpose. For example, you can say, "I need 5 minutes of your time if it's okay with you too. I want to vent about some negative feelings now. I just simply want to express my emotions consciously and be listened to." Step 2 is to start softly. Choose the statements you make. For example, never start with "you" or "you always" because it might sound like an accusation. When expressing your feelings, lead with "I feel" statements. Don't forget that there's a difference between emotions and feelings. Emotions have a subconscious nature, and feelings are expressed consciously. Simply put, feelings are how we learn to respond to specific emotional triggers over time. So don't say, "I felt unsupported, I didn't get that job promotion I told you about," because he might wrongly think he is being judged. Instead, you could try, "I feel frustrated I didn't get the job promotion I told you about." The last step is to express your needs and expectations from the conversation. Try sounding as plain as possible and avoid indirect communication. A way to phrase this could be, "You are not responsible for these feelings. You don't have to say anything in return. I just needed someone to acknowledge what I'm going through." Any communication you initiate with your partner should come from a good place, even when discussing negative feelings. But what happens when you want to resolve a conflict, no matter who's the person you're having a conversation with? Men and women are very different. In a conversation, women seek emotional support and connection. Men offer advice or solutions without focusing too much on empathetic listening and emotional expression. How can we navigate conflict if we have different needs in a conversation? All must learn something important. Men, to control their emotions. Women, to share their emotions so they can be heard. Let's unpack a few practical tips on how to find common ground when communicating, even when facing conflict or aggression. Do you often wonder why you hesitate to openly express your feelings when talking to your spouse or boyfriend? Pause this video and think, do you confide more in your friends than your partner? Many women struggle with anxiety and the thought of provoking or escalating a conflict. Sometimes it's fear of rejection and not being heard. Many times when talking, we feel heard but not listened to. It's valid the other way around. We hear but don't listen. Men and women can listen to each other as long as they don't blame one another. For example, men can listen to somebody talking about a problem as long as they are not blamed for that particular problem. Any woman should remember that when communicating to her significant other. But if you want to gently express your feelings without fearing he might get defensive, here is a simple exercise you should try each week. Now and then, take 10 minutes to initiate a simple conversation with your partner. From the beginning, it's important to tell him you will talk about your feelings. Describe what kind of feelings you will be expressing, whether they might be negative or positive. Make it clear you don't need any verbal response in return. Phrase your ideas without placing the blame for any negative emotions on your significant other. Your boyfriend or spouse will listen to what you say and acknowledge your emotions. He won't feel responsible or blamed. He will stop looking for solutions that might sound like denying your feelings. When we are told something that could be perceived as aggression, our natural tendency is to react defensively. One secret is to employ verbal tricks to diffuse the newly generated tension and encourage dialogue in a non-judgmental manner. Clear communication should always be prioritized. Some women find it more difficult than men to express emotions without immediately placing blame. One thing you should also keep in mind is that the most powerful people are peaceful people. That happens because a key component of peace is diplomacy. Strength can be found in empathy, wisdom, and strategic thinking. These are all traits a good leader possesses. They are also specific to an important feminine archetype, the nurturer. This type of woman thrives when embracing harmony. She also inspires trust, even when in the middle of a heated conversation. Now, let's see how you can defend yourself gracefully in any argument. If you want this to work, analyze the other person. Focus on both the tone of the voice and the body language. It can be hard to stay calm when navigating aggression in an argument. A strategy is to relax your whole body as much as possible. Breathe slowly and deeply and release any muscle-building tension. If you are calm and relaxed physically, you'll keep your mind on the conversation. When someone gets triggered, they enter a state best described as fight mode. Your concern should be learning to spot this exact moment. You will immediately notice any voice rising or if the other person starts interrupting your speech. Sometimes they might argue before listening to anything you have to say. It is a clear sign they were triggered. Next step, watch out for how they are phrasing their arguments. If triggered, individuals will start misquoting you. They could claim you said something slightly similar but not identical to what you actually said. Your following argument shouldn't be to defend the misquote because it won't reflect your belief. If it happens, you have to first clarify your point of view. Another thing someone might try doing in an argument against you is interrupting before you can make your point. If that is the case, pause and listen. Confirm you understood the affirmation while making eye contact. Then, make your point as clear and calm as possible. In this stage of the conversation, there are two phrases you can use. I understand what you are saying, and I respect your right to think that. Using these exact words, you make them feel listened to and connected to the conversation. At the same time, you don't give the impression you are agreeing. Two reactions can be expected at this point. First, if they feel understood, their verbal attack might pause or even cease. Second, they might continue the same pattern. If that happens, you should request not to be interrupted. Do it right before you follow up with an important idea. For example, you can use one of these two simple lines. Please don't interrupt me again. Or, can you stop for a second? At all costs, avoid making the same mistakes as the other person. Do not cut people off. You won't reach any common ground if you don't have patience. Interrupting means you just entered fight mode. You lost the argument in favor of your emotions. It's natural for an argument to escalate if both participants lose their calm. You will need even more self-confidence to stop the momentum of a conflict. Later in this video, we'll recommend some practical tips to help if you struggle with low self-esteem. Now, let's see how it is possible to salvage the situation. Give the conversation a positive vibe and make it friendly again. Do it by looking for any common ground. For example, acknowledge if you both went through similar situations. Show genuine empathy when speaking about something you have in common. Express it through your words, your voice, and your body language. Don't try to sound whiny or condescending when bringing difficult memories or experiences into your conversation. Another way to build on what you have in common with the other person is to allow yourself to change your views. Assuming they are making a good argument, admit that maybe you were wrong. You are entitled to see things in the new light presented to you. Having a flexible mindset is a great advantage. It is mistaken to think that might be a sign of weakness. It is not. Letting your vulnerability show when trying to communicate is actually a peace offer. Changing your mind proves that you are now different from your past self. It means you've evolved and you have more freedom. Next time you go through an argument and admit being wrong, you are showing a great deal of self-confidence just by acknowledging your mistake. I told you earlier in this video about some practical strategies you can try to boost your self-esteem. If interested, don't miss our personal growth guide video.